Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert, along with Father Joe Grimaldi, and welcome to the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. Father Joe podcast proudly supported by Houghton McInerney's Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. Please mention you heard about Star Lincoln on the Father Joe podcast, and you will receive the Father Joe Star treatment. Additional savings. Make sure you check out the all-new Nautilus and MKC. Houghton McInerney's Star Lincoln. Bob Talbert, do you remember the name? He used to be a columnist for the Detroit Free Press.
I do, yes.
He was a great guy, but it's funny how he operated. He used to have a column called Out of My Mind on a Monday Morning.
Yes, okay.
And he would just sort of rant and rave and talk about things. And he would say really nice things about me when I was on the radio. Here was the problem with Bob. If he said a nice thing about you, the next time he mentioned you, it would not be a nice thing. It was really, really funny.
He wanted to keep the balance.
Yeah, exactly. He was a great reporter, but he would just bring up things on his mind. So that's what we're going to do today.
Sounds great to me.
Out of our minds on a Sunday morning. I want to start with this real quick. I'll blindside you with this. You are back at Brother Rice one day a week.
Yes, I'm doing chaplaincy work there. Actually, I'm available to speak to people, but I'm also doing masses at different times and maybe some spiritual direction and so on and so forth. Yes, I am doing that.
Your various jobs at Brother Rice, you were a very young man as a brother.
Correct.
Was that your first assignment?
Yes, it was. That was in 1962.
How old were you?
I was 21.
21 years old.
I just got my degree. I was brand new. That sounds a little bit, how should I put it, exaggerated, but I was 21 going on 22 because we had to arrive at the school in the middle of July, but my birthday is September, so I was going to be 22.
September 1st, right?
Yeah, so I was really 22 when I started, but I went there as 21.
Wow.
And basically it was an interesting time for Brother Rice because we had freshmen, sophomores, and in 1962 we started with juniors. So the first 3 years were taken up then because in 1960 is when the school opened and there were only freshmen. 61 freshmen and sophomores, 62. Anyway, my assignment was to teach French, English, Latin, and religion, and it was all different age groups. So it was an interesting time for me.
How many assignments have you had at Brother Rice?
As far as teaching, then as time went on, because from 1962, I was there till 1973 or 4, and basically by the time I left, I was already an assistant principal. So got into administration around 1970, and because in 1973 or 4, I went to Hawaii. I was principal in Hawaii from 1974 to 80, and then back to Brother Rice as principal from 80 to 86. So different assignments at Brother Rice would have been a teacher of all those subjects that I mentioned.
As a very young brother.
But I was also given the privilege of developing the motto for the school. And since I was teaching Latin, it came natural to say, well, what should the motto be for Brother Rice? Sanctitas per scientiam, basically holiness through learning. And it still is used as the motto of Brother Rice.
You came up with that?
I did. I was teaching Latin at the time. But I also came up with the development of the seal, which eventually was changed into the round because people felt that it looked like an Irish coffin. If you look at the original seal, it looks like an Irish coffin. Wow. So it was made round, but they kept the essence of the seal, which was basically the name of the school, the foundation, and then the motto, Sanctitas per scientiam, and then also the symbols of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, who is the patroness of the Christian Brothers of Ireland, but also the patroness of Brother Rice.
And now you're back.
Well, I'm back. I mean, it's minimal.
But I mean,
yes.
Come on, it's It's pretty interesting, isn't it? I mean, here
It
you
is
are,
interesting,
many
yeah.
years later, you walk in and you're going to be there on Tuesdays
Right.
doing an assortment of things. But basically, I think more of you, Joe, as an ambassador for the high school. I mean, of course, you're the chaplain, but you could still teach if you had to. You could teach in a heartbeat. You
I'm
teach
too
me.
old. Too old.
No, you teach. What are you talking about? You teach me each and every week.
Okay.
So, are you glad that you're back?
I am, very
Are you
much.
happy to be doing it?
Very
Yeah.
much so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I came out of Brother Rice with what I think was a pretty sound sense of humor, based on the peers and a lot of my teachers. A lot of my teachers were really kind of cleverly funny when they would teach us.
Ken, I just want to say this, though.
Yeah.
In the mid-'60s, you were a star. Despite the fact you were still in high school, you were a star. For example, I notice and remember you were the warrior.
It was Brother
And
Rice
that in
mascot, yeah.
itself was a way of entertaining people because you put a lot of your heart, soul, and blood and sweat and tears into it. You did a great job with that. And so all you did was to continue to develop that gift that you were given when you finished Brother Rice and went on to bigger and better things.
You know, I tell people why, if they say, you're doing a podcast with the priest, I say, yeah. I'll tell you why, because I found everything that I really needed at the end of the day at Brother Rice High School, or any really truly committed Catholic high school will do for a young man looking for what he really needs, what he's seeking to do in life. If you're not the brightest guy on the planet, and I don't think I was, I think I've become much smarter street smarts wise. But with that said, I mean, Brother Rice remains my college.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Brother Rice
because-
remains my college.
Yeah.
Everybody else can say Notre Dame, Michigan State, Michigan, Duke, whatever the case may be, Xavier, Georgetown. So many great universities around the country, but Brother Rice is a great, great institution. It's not a shill for Brother Rice. It's a coincidence because Joe just started back at Brother Rice yesterday, actually, and it was his
Correct.
first day. I called him, and he was like, can't talk now. It's my first day on the job.
I don't want to get fired.
Yeah, right. So, but one of the things I wanted to bring up through that process at Brother Rice was the fact that I realized that in high school, the Catholic Church, at all, there's a thread of a sense of humor. I mean, you have to have some humor, especially today, don't you?
Hopefully, yeah.
Are you a fan of some of these church signs that are out there right now? Do you know what I'm talking about? Churches that have those boards out in front that they can change on a regular, weekly.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I guess I'd call them banner boards or something like that.
Yes.
And
A gentle reminder to the traffic.
yeah, I looked up a few and I wanted to run them by you if
Sure,
I could.
by
Okay?
all means.
One of the ones that I saw you tweet was it was a great one. It was a billboard on one of the freeways that said, "Hey, that love thy brother thing, I meant it. God." I thought that was good, because it was a road rage.
It sure is.
Area,
It sure
okay.
is.
Acting perfect in church is like dressing up for an X-ray.
I think it is. I mean, when you think about
So feel free to jump in whenever I bring these up.
well, acting perfect in church is hopefully the exterior is showing what the interior is about. And so when a person is reverent, but a person is prayerful in his attitude and actions, hopefully it reflects what's inside. That's where the X-ray comes in.
God prefers kind atheists over hateful Christians.
Oh, yeah, I see this. Jesus preaches love. Love should be the DNA of Christians, huh? But sometimes, well, it happens where the non-Christian can put us to shame because that non-Christian is reaching out to the people who are marginal, the people who need help, the people who need a smile. So you have this sometimes self-righteous Christian, and I think that's what is being referred to as the hateful Christian, is a self-righteous individual who sees nothing but faults in other people and considers himself or herself better than everyone else, following the straight and narrow, and nobody else can come near her or him.
Or him, yes. Humbly grateful, or grumbly hateful. Everyone's welcome.
That's a very important attitude that all churches should have, is because we welcome everybody. We should be universal. We should be Catholic. By the way, people forget that Catholic means universal. It means open to all people, and everyone should be welcome. You know? You look at those two attitudes. I look at them as attitudes, being humbly grateful. We thank God for the life that we have, the day that rises every morning, and all of these good things that are minor miracles, if you want. They're not so minor, but we take them for granted because they happen just regularly. It's part of God's creation. You know, we have the day gets dark, and then tomorrow's a new day. The sun comes up again. But we should be humbly grateful for everything that the Lord has given us.
Even if you're designated a grumpy old man, I don't like anything. Well, you're still welcome in church. Come on in.
Of course you are. Everyone is welcome, and that's the important thing.
Here's a funny one. I think this is great. I wish Noah would have swatted those 2 mosquitoes.
Pesky mosquitoes. I agree with that, and I love it, and I think it is hilarious. But let's face it, even mosquitoes have a role to play in nature. And so I don't know exactly what it is. I'm not a scientist, but they do have a role.
Well, when you figure it out, will you get back to us?
I will get back to you. I have to look it up, though. Maybe St. Google will know. I don't know.
That's right. Part 2, Mosquitoes, Father Joe podcast. I love that one. Heaven is no trick. Hell is no treat.
Well, I think we reap what
rather obvious, but
yeah, we reap what we sow, basically. You know, I always look at heaven as a completion of what we on earth work for. In other words, we do the best we can. We muddle along, we fall, we pick ourselves up, but we're all headed towards the afterlife, which is heaven, and that's what we want. And the thing is this, that I don't think heaven is going to be a big surprise. I think it's who we are, what we are, and how we've achieved, and it continues on in a bigger, better, wonderful way in the next life.
Don't you think that these signs, and there are a few more before we finish up, don't you think these signs are just, they're meant to make us think? And it's like, that's clever, but it makes you think.
Of course it does, and I think, yeah, it does, and I see it achieves its purpose.
I love this one. Brand new sign. Same loving God. So you're driving by and you see that brand new sign, same loving God.
I mean, God is beautiful in Florida, but he's beautiful in Maine as well, as you keep going, I think.
One of my all-time favorites. Walmart isn't the only saving place in town. That's good.
I like that, and it's an important thing to think about.
You know, I'm going to give you these at the end of the day, and you can, like...
throw them into my homilies.
I think, yeah. And see how the crowd... See if you may have an act after this.
Well, I think you need to have a little humor in your homilies.
That's what I was trying to say at the very beginning. Don't you think people need to laugh?
Oh, I think so.
It gives them a chance to sort of, like, exhale and shuffle and sit and adjust.
Life can be too serious. So.
Oh, especially now, Joe. Especially now.
Very good.
Here's the final one. Great sign. And you got to think about it for a second. I hate this church. Signed, Satan.
You could see why Satan thinks that and says that, because Satan tries forever to get at the church. Even these days, we're suffering because of Satan's activity within the church. But I do believe this, that the church is a survivor, if you want. I don't mean to be light about it, but what do they call the ever-ready bunny? The
Energizer bunny.
The Energizer bunny, because God, it's amazing how throughout history the church has been attacked. It has messed up. It has failed. It has fallen. But it comes up smiling in a way.
Yeah.
It still continues to exist.
You said to me once that when you go to visit somebody who may not be doing well, just the smile, the smiling eyes, the happiness. Happiness is such an important part of life. And that's why I respect that have the courage to put out the signs, each and every week to just tell us, hey, let's lighten up, let's appreciate what we have, pay respect to God, but let's have a sense of humor.
Happiness should be catching.
Yeah, it should. It really, instead of the flu, I wish people could catch happiness.
Happiness.
Yeah.
It would make everything so much nicer.
I don't want a shot for the flu. I want a shot to get happiness.
I agree with you.
All
I
right.
agree with you.
All right, well, congratulations on your new job. And someday, some way, somehow, you can walk the halls again just like you did back in 1969 when I was there. Well, you went into your principal voice again, your laugh.
I don't know about this body if it can handle it, but anyway.
Oh, no, you're doing just fine. You're
well,
doing
thank
just fine.
you, and I appreciate it, and I am enjoying it.
Well,
so.
listen, we want to thank everyone for stopping by and saying hi. It's the Father Joe Podcast. I'm Ken Calvert, along with Father Joe Grimaldi, and we'll see you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
I look forward to it.
Father Joe Podcast, proudly supported by Houghton McInerney's Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. Please mention you heard about Star Lincoln on the Father Joe Podcast, and you will receive the Father Joe Star Treatment additional savings. Make sure you check out the all-new Nautilus and MKC. Houghton McInerney's Star Lincoln.
This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.